Hello and Assalamualaikum to Madam Hashaniza, our lecturer for MAF603. We are members of Group 6 AC2204B. For this assessment, we have picked dividend residual theory as our topic. In this group, there are 5 dedicated students. First and foremost, there is me, Nur Syazwani Shakila binti Darussalam. Second, Nurin Aimina Biha binti Muhammad Sukri. Third, Nur Izzati binti Abu Bakar. Fourth, Siti Nur Ainus binti Abdul Rashid. And the last one, Siti Sumaya binti Ishaq. This presentation is divided into 4 sections: definition, advantages, disadvantages, and issues. We will start our presentation with the definition of the topic.
Definition of dividend residual theory is the companies utilize a dividend policy in which the amount of dividends paid to shareholders is equal to the profits left over after capital expenditures and working capital costs have been paid. There are 3 dividend policies. A dividend policy should be implement the best debt to equity ratio possible for funding future investments, and the second one, accept an investment if the net present value is positive. The last one is internally produced funds are used to fund the equity part of new investments first. Dividends should be paid if monies earned internally are still available.
Dividend residual theory is basically one type of dividend policy which states that a company will prioritize capital expenditure before paying out dividends to shareholders. Dividend residual theory has the following advantages. First one is ensure the financial stability of a company on the long term. Dividend residual policy ensure the financial stability of company on the long term. Investors coming into a project that follow a dividend residual policy know exactly what they are getting into, such as unpredictable dividends. This policy attract investors and shareholders that are in it for the long term. These are investors that plan to hold on to their shares as long as it takes to see profit. Most of the time, investors invest because they see large profit somewhere down the line. Since a business will focus on reinvesting cash into improving a business first, it becomes more likely for the business to remain stable over time. Without excesses of funding, credit rating will also remain in good standing. If the business remains balanced and successful, the initial stock values should hold over time and maybe even appreciate later on. Net advantages is more efficient. In theory, a dividend residual policy is more efficient. Anytime a company follows the model of a dividend residual policy, if at any point in a time in business can find out for the profitable investment, all cash is distributed to pay for the operational need of the business, which may reinvestment. Then they should return any spare or excess cash available to the shareholders so that the shareholders may use the cash to invest in other projects that they believe will be profitable. Thus, a dividend residual policy ensures that cash is efficiently distributed to a profitable investment. Moreover, dividend residual theory is very simple to use. Under this theory, the dividend residual policy does not affect the company's market value, since investors value dividends and capital gains equally. The company utilizes the funds for profitable project and then distribute the remaining to the shareholders. The management is free to pursue profitable opportunities without worrying about the dividends constraints. This model allows a company to have a simpler of accounting because basic operational expenses are paid out of cash flow.
Next advantages is it can save on flotation costs. A residual dividend policy usually requires fewer new stock issue and a lower flotation cost. This is because of need to raise debt or equity capital since there is a high retention of earning which require no flotation cost. Dividends amount appear to match the curvature of a company's net income in a residual dividend policy model. It normally necessitates a smaller number of a new stock issue and a lower flotation cost. A variable dividend policy, on the other hand, can give investors mixed signals. It additionally addresses an expanded degree of hazard for financial backer, as profit pays stay questionable. Organization, everything being equals, and third can be utilized this way to deal with the given profit installment, since it permits organization to compute the installment in a way that is more obvious to create an unfriendly impact on the center activity. The last advantages for residual dividend policy is it is numerous. A company's benefit from having a residual dividend strategy are numerous. Business owner must always strike a balance between the needs of the company and the needs of the shareholders. But a successful companies benefit both entities. The point of interest of how profit are determined utilizing a leftover profit strategy will rely upon how the organization decide to structure the cycles at the time the offer are given. Every company requires asset, and maintaining asset and operating business always require expenses. Although regular and average expenditure can be predicted, there are always variables in the business that are out of control. Having a residual dividend policy models allow a business some flexibility and responsiveness.
The disadvantage of having a residual dividend policy falls mostly on the shareholders. This is because dividends or capital gains are not guaranteed. Hence, residual dividend policy are riskier for investors. If an investor is ready to take on an investment that uses a residual dividend policy, he or she must be willing to accept this risk. As for business, the disadvantage of this policy is that it requires shareholders to justify dividend payouts and fluctuations on a regular basis. This may not be an issue for some, but it can become problematic if the fluctuations are too excessive. Too many fluctuations may appear to be too much of a risk to continue with. Last but not least, disadvantage of residual dividend policy are it may result in variable dividend. Variable dividend policy may send conflicting signals to investors, increase level of risk for investors as dividend income remains uncertain and do not appeal to any specific clientele that result in higher required return.
Issue on residual theory of dividend is the over-invest of the management, stated in book Dividends and Dividend Policy by Beckett and Smith 2009, based on the agency theory formalized by Jensen and McLean 1976. Jensen 1986 provide a strong justification for pursuing a residual dividend policy. He points out that if management does not repay the remaining cash after making all profitable investment, they will use those resources in a way that destroys the property of shareholders. These suboptimal uses include investing in negative NPV projects and consuming excessive fringe benefits. Moreover, following Jensen's recommendation, firms should pay out all residual cash flow, eliminate the main causes of temptation from managers to overinvest, and consume excess benefits, and also avoid the resulting destruction of value. The interaction of investment and dividend policies extend to dividend reduction as well, but empirical data are far less abundant. The stock market generally interprets dividend cuts as a bad news. Additionally, Woolrich and Gauge 1985, they examined a small sample of firms that have reduced dividends for given reasons of increasing their investment in profitable projects. They have confirmed that the market reaction to the sample is negative, but if the stated investment increase plan is implemented, the value of the company's stock market will recover significantly.
That's all from us. Thank you.